Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. In a modern hospital in the center of a bustling metropolitan area, Dr. Jake Thompson is hurrying from ward to ward. The deep dark circles under his tired eyes spoke silently of his recent labors. Jake is a senior surgeon at this large hospital and a student pursuing a graduate degree. Jake's life is like a precision machine where every second is precisely organized. At 5 a.m., when the city is still asleep, he is up and about for the day. By day, he saves lives and brings hope to patients in the hospital, while at night, he transforms into a part-time programmer, writing code in a tech company to pave the way for his studies and future. This pace of life is certainly a tough test for Jake. He often felt physically and mentally exhausted, but he gritted his teeth and persevered in order to achieve his goal. However, Jake doesn't realize that this hustle is quietly sowing the seeds of a crisis in his married life. Jake's wife, Emma, is a talented designer who works for a well-known design firm. She is responsible for the design of new products, which is equally busy and challenging. In addition to her work, Emma takes care of their 5-year-old son, Ethan. Although Jake and Emma's parents live nearby and often help with Ethan, Emma still feels a heavy burden on her shoulders as a mother. Every night, Emma and Ethan were usually asleep by the time Jake dragged his tired body home. Jake walked gingerly into the bedroom and looked at the sleeping Emma with guilt in his heart. He knew he had neglected his wife and son lately, but he reassured himself that it was only temporary and that when he finished school, everything would be fine. However, Emma doesn't think so. She began to feel lonely and neglected. The Jake who would once prepare surprises for her and watch the sunrise with her seems to have disappeared, replaced by a stranger who is always busy and preoccupied. One night, Emma finally relented. When Jake came home late at night once again, she was still awake, sitting on the couch in the living room waiting for him. "Jake, we need to talk." Emma's voice held a hint of exhaustion and disappointment. Jake froze for a moment, then nodded and sat down next to Emma. He could feel a tension in the air. "Jake, do you remember the last time we had dinner together?" Emma asked softly. Jake was silent. He tried to think back, but realized he couldn't even remember. The realization sent a wave of heartache through him. "I know you're busy and you have your dreams and ambitions. But Jake, we're a family. Ethan's always asking me why Dad's never home. I don't know how to answer him." Emma's voice began to choke. Jake reached out to hug Emma, but she gently pushed him away. The action was like a sharp blade that pierced Jake's heart. "I'm not blaming you, Jake. I know you're working for our future, but I feel like we're drifting apart. I'm afraid that one day, when you finally reach your goal, you'll look back and realize we've become strangers." Jake took a deep breath, knowing that Emma was telling the truth. He didn't neglect his family and his wife's feelings. He tried to explain, tried to reassure, but words seemed to fail him. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I know I've neglected you and Ethan lately, and I promise I'll make it up to you when this semester is over." Jake struggled to organize his words. Emma smiled bitterly. "Jake, you know what? You've said wait until so many times now, but life isn't always about waiting, and we're missing out on too many good moments." Jake felt a surge of powerlessness. He knows Emma's right, but again, he doesn't know how to balance career and family. This powerlessness made him feel frustrated and angry, and he even blamed Emma a little for not understanding what he was giving. "And what do you expect me to do? Give up my ideals?" There was a hint of imperceptible anger in Jake's tone. Emma shook her head. "I've never asked you to give up your ideals, Jake. I just want you to remember that Ethan and I are part of your life too. We need you, not just materially, but mentally, for companionship." Jake was silent. He knew Emma was right, but he didn't know how to change things. This powerlessness frustrated him and caused him to develop an inexplicable resentment toward Emma. He begins to wonder if Emma really understands his dedication and hard work. With that, the two fell into silence. The only sound left in the living room was the ticking of the clock. as if it was a relentless reminder that time was passing little by little and their feelings were fading with it. From that day on, Jake and Emma became more and more distant from each other. They lived together, but their hearts drifted apart. Jake began to get more involved in work and school, as if that would be an escape from his family's problems. Emma, on the other hand, began to focus more on her work and Ethan, and so their lives continue in high pressure and alienation. Jake leaves early and stays late every day, buried in hospital work and evening programming. Emma, on the other hand, is working hard to balance her career and family as she continues to improve herself in her design company. They are like two parallel lines, living in the same space but never connected. Jake began to notice that Emma no longer had the old gleam in her eye. She no longer waited for him to come home for dinner or offer to share anecdotes from work with him. The conversation between them was almost never about anything other than about Ethan. The change is disturbing to Jake, but he doesn't know how to change it. Emma also senses a change in Jake. He became more silent and preoccupied. Sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night to find Jake still buried in his study. She wanted to go and comfort him, but didn't know what to say. Two people who were once so close are now such strangers. It is in this atmosphere that Emma meets a new coworker in the company, David. David was a charming man who always entertained Emma with his humorous remarks. David's presence brings a ray of light into Emma's life during the days when Jake is busy with work and school. At first, Emma just thought of David as a good coworker, but as time went on, she found herself looking forward more and more to each day with David. David always sensed her changing moods and offered comfort and encouragement at the right time. This feeling of being cared for and understood reminds Emma of the good times when she and Jake were in love. Emma knows that she shouldn't have feelings for David beyond friendship. But deep down, she couldn't help herself. She began to fantasize about how great it would be if Jake could be as thoughtful as David, if her married life could be good again. Jake, on the other hand, is still immersed in his own world and fails to notice the changes in his wife's heart. He still goes about his daily business, thinking that if he just works a little harder and holds on a little longer, he can give his family a better future. But he doesn't realize that in the process he is losing the most important things step by step. And so it was that Jake and Emma's marriage, like a ship sailing through a storm, faltered. They're both trying to keep the relationship going, but they're forgetting the most important thing: communication and understanding. Their relationship, like a string too taut, could snap at any moment. And a turning point in fate is coming. Summer sunlight pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the design firm and onto Emma's desk. She was absorbed in revising a new product design proposal, a soft glow reflecting off the fine sweat on her forehead. Suddenly, an iced Americano appeared in her line of sight, interrupting her thoughts. "Thought I'd bring you a pick-me-up, seeing as you've been busy for hours on end." David's gentle voice came from overhead, and Emma looked up to see a warm smile on his face. "Thank you, David," Emma said as she took the coffee, a warm feeling welling up in her heart. It had been a long time since I had experienced this feeling of being cared for. David sat down in the chair next to Emma and asked softly, "How have you been? You look a little tired." Emma sighed and hesitated before deciding to confide in David. "To be honest, things at home have been bothering me a bit lately. Jake's always busy, and we've been communicating less and less." David listened attentively, nodding his head in understanding at the right time. When Emma finished, he gently held Emma's hand. "Emma, you're such a wonderful woman. You deserve to be treated well. If Jake doesn't know how to cherish you, it's his loss." Emma felt the warmth of David's palm, and her heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. She knew it was wrong, but David's caring and thoughtfulness overwhelmed her. It's at this moment that Emma realizes that her feelings for David go beyond the boundaries of an ordinary coworker. As time goes on, the relationship between Emma and David grows closer. They began to have lunch together regularly, and sometimes David would give Emma a ride home after work. Every time she was with David, Emma felt relaxed and happy, a feeling she hadn't experienced around Jake in a long time. However, Emma's heart is filled with conflict and guilt. She knows she's sorry for Jake, for her marriage vows. But on the other hand, David gave her the care and understanding that she so craved during this time. One evening, the company hosted a celebratory dinner. Emma had planned to go home early, but David invited her to join him for a drink. Under the influence of alcohol, Emma's sanity was blurring. The atmosphere between the two becomes ambiguous as David drops her off in front of the house. "Emma, I think I'm in love with you." David gazed deep into Emma's eyes and slowly moved closer. Emma felt her heart racing and her breath catching. She knew she should push David away, but her body moved closer to him uncontrollably. Just as their lips were about to touch, Emma suddenly came to her senses. "No, David, we can't." Emma took a step back, her voice trembling. David looked into Emma's struggling eyes and sighed softly. "I understand. But Emma, you deserve better. You deserve to be happy." Emma didn't answer, just hurried into the house. She leaned against the door, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. She realized that she had gone over the edge of a cliff. That night, Emma tossed and turned. She thought back to her time with Jake, their fond memories of falling in love, getting married, and having children. But at the same time, David's gentle gaze and thoughtful words kept flashing through her mind. Emma felt more confused and miserable than ever. Early the next morning, Jake was in a hurry to get ready to leave the house, as usual. Emma looked at her husband's tired back and made a sudden decision. "Jake, we need to talk." There was a quiver in Emma's voice. Jake stopped and turned to look at Emma with a slight frown. "What's wrong? Is something urgent?" "I have a major surgery this morning." Emma took a deep breath and worked up the courage to say, "Jake, I'm having feelings for someone else." Jake froze in place, as if he hadn't heard Emma. He blinked, his voice trembling a little. "You? What did you say?" Emma lowered her head, unable to look Jake in the eye. "A coworker at work and we developed feelings. We haven't had a substantial relationship yet, but we almost kissed." Jake felt the air around him suddenly thin out, and he had to hold onto the wall to stay on his feet. His mind went blank, with only Emma's words echoing over and over. "Why?" Jake finally found his voice, but it sounded so foreign. Emma looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "Jake, I don't know. Maybe it's because I feel neglected. Maybe it's because I feel alone. David, he gave me the care and understanding you haven't given me in a long time." Jake's heart felt like it was being clutched tightly by an invisible hand, and it hurt so much that he could barely breathe. He wanted to question Emma. He wanted to be angry, but more than anything else, there was a deep sense of loss and self-loathing. "Is it my fault?" Jake muttered. "Is it because I'm too busy ignoring your feelings?" Emma shook her head, tears finally slipping down her face. "It's not all your fault, Jake. It's me being weak. It's me not holding on. I'm so sorry." Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, Emma saw a strange coldness. "I need time to think." Jake's voice was low and husky. "Tonight, you'd better not be home." With that said, Jake turned and left the house, leaving Emma alone in the living room, crying silently. Jake arrives at the hospital all jumbled up, the whole thing a walking corpse. He mechanically finished the work at hand, but inside he was as if he was being attacked by a violent storm. Emma's words kept echoing in his head, each word like a sharp blade that pierced deep into his heart. Jake didn't go home after work. He drove to an elevated area on the outskirts of the city and looked at the lights in the distance, thinking. He thought back to the moments when he and Emma had met and fallen in love, to their wedding, to the joy when Ethan was born. These wonderful memories are now so bitter. Jake pulled out his cell phone and hesitated for a long time before finally dialing a number. "Hey, old friend, I need your help." Jake's voice was raspy and tired. I want to get a divorce." The lawyer friend on the other end of the line was silent for a moment, then said, "Jake, are you sure? This is not a decision to be taken lightly." Jake smiled bitterly. "I know, but I guess I had no choice." After hanging up, Jake felt a wave of exhaustion like no other. He knew that from this moment on, his life would be turned upside down. Emma, meanwhile, is sitting in David's car, teary-eyed. She just confessed everything to David, including the fact that she confessed to Jake. David was silent for a long time and finally whispered, "Emma, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have put you in this predicament." Emma shook her head. "No, David. It's not your fault. It was me. It was me being weak." David looked deeply at Emma, then said, "Emma, I will support you in whatever decision you make. If you choose to save your marriage, I will quit. If you choose to be with me, I will cherish you." Emma listened to David's words without any ripples in her mind. She suddenly realized that what she felt for David was probably just a passing infatuation, a way of escaping reality. And Jake, that's who she really loves. "David, thank you. But I think I need to be alone," Emma said softly. David nodded and drove Emma to her parents' house. Only after watching Emma's back disappear into the night did David slowly start the car. Emma stood at the door of her parents' house, hesitant to ring the doorbell. She didn't know how to face her parents, didn't know how to explain her situation. Just then her cell phone suddenly rang. It was a text message from Jake. "I've contacted a lawyer. Go through the formalities tomorrow." When she saw the message, Emma just felt the sky spinning. She finally realizes that her moment of weakness could completely destroy everything she and Jake have built over the years. Emma slid against the door and sat on the floor, tears falling. She knew that starting tomorrow, her life would change completely. And it was all her doing. In the silence of the night, Jake and Emma, a couple who once loved each other, each suffers great pain. They were both pondering the same question. Their marriage, was it still salvageable? Early morning sunlight poured into the room through a gap in the curtains, and Jake opened his tired eyes. He'd been up almost all night, Emma's confession like a sharp blade constantly stirring in his mind. He rose mechanically, ready for what was destined to be an extraordinary day. Meanwhile, Emma is tossing and turning in the guest room of her parents' house. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying all night, and her heart was filled with remorse and fear. She knew that today could be the end of her married life. Jake arrived at the lawyer's office as promised. His old friend and lawyer, Mark, is waiting for him. "Jake, are you sure you want to do this?" Mark asked with concern. "Maybe you can talk again and try to save the marriage?" Jake laughed bitterly and shook his head. "Mark, you don't understand. She betrayed me. She betrayed our marriage. I don't think I can forgive her." Mark sighed and handed Jake a document. "Here are the divorce papers. I've drawn it up as you requested. You can see if there are any changes that need to be made." Jake took the papers, and his eyes fell on the words divorce in big, bold letters. His hands trembled slightly, and a sudden, unspeakable pain welled up in his heart. Just then, Jake's cell phone rang. It's a text notification from the bank indicating a large deposit has been transferred. Jake frowned and immediately dialed the bank's customer service number. "Hello, I'd like to confirm the transfer I just made." Jake's voice was a little nervous. Customer service replied, "Mr. Thompson, you did have a transfer of $500,000 out of your joint account just now. It was operated by Ms. Emma Thompson." Jake felt a wave of vertigo. Emma went so far as to transfer half of the savings in their joint account. The move both shocked and angered Jake. He had been hesitant to give Emma some compensation, but now he had decided that he would cut off all contact with Emma completely. Jake hangs up, takes a deep breath, and says to Mark, "Let's get on with it. I want to get this over with as soon as possible." Mark nodded and began to explain the divorce settlement to Jake in detail. Meanwhile, Emma was sitting in the living room of her parents' house, her cell phone clutched in her hand. She had just completed the transfer of the portion of her savings that she thought belonged to her personal account. She knew the act might anger Jake, but she felt she had no choice. "Honey, have you really decided to do this?" Emma's mother, Sarah, asked softly. Emma looked up with pain and confusion in her eyes. "Mom, I don't know. I just feel like I need to think about myself. I don't know what Jake will do to me, and I need to have some reassurance." Sarah sighed and gently hugged her daughter. "I understand how you feel, honey, but have you ever thought that this could completely kill the possibility of you and Jake making up?" Emma leaned in her mother's arms, tears welling up again. "I know, but Mom, I really don't know what to do. I screwed up everything, and Jake must hate me." Just then, Emma's cell phone suddenly rang. "It's David calling." Emma hesitated but picked up the phone. "Emma, are you okay?" David's voice was full of concern. "I was worried about you." Emma took a deep breath. I'm okay. David, I think we need to talk." David was silent for a moment, then said, "Okay, we can meet and talk. Where are you located? I'll pick you up." Emma told David where she was and hung up. She knew that she needed to talk to David and end this relationship that should not have started. A few hours later, Jake arrived at the police station with the divorce papers. He found his friend, a police officer. "Hey, Tom, I need a favor." Jake's voice was low and husky. Tom looked at Jake's tired face and asked with concern, "Jake, you look terrible. What happened?" Jake smiled bitterly and handed Tom the divorce papers. "I need you to serve this document for me. It's for Emma." Tom looked at Jake in shock. "Oh my God, Jake, you're getting a divorce? Why?" Jake shook his head, unwilling to say more. "Tom, please do me this favor. I don't want to see her right now." Tom hesitated, but took the paper. "Okay, Jake, I'll deliver it for you. But are you sure this is what you want?" Jake didn't answer, just turned and left the police station. The next day at noon, Emma was working in her office at the company. Her mind was distracted, and she looked at her phone frequently in anticipation of a message from Jake. Suddenly, a commotion came from outside the office. "Mrs. Thompson, there's someone here to see you," came the voice of a coworker. Emma looked up and saw Tom standing in front of her desk. Her heart suddenly beat wildly, and she knew that the moment had finally come. Tom looked serious and said, "Emma Thompson, you are being sued for divorce on the grounds of an extramarital affair. Here's the court summons and divorce papers." Emma felt like the world stopped spinning for a moment. She took the paper mechanically, her hands trembling. The surrounding coworkers watched the scene in amazement as whispers continued to come in. Just then, David appeared at Emma's office door. He saw the scene and immediately went up to Emma, trying to comfort her. "Emma, are you okay? Do you need my help?" David asked with concern. Tom gave David a wary look, then turned to Emma. "Mrs. Thompson, you need to respond within 3 days. If you have any questions, you can contact the court or your attorney." Emma nodded blankly, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. She felt eyes all around her, shame and pain flooding her like a tidal wave. David tries to assist Emma, but she pushes him away. Emma sprang to her feet and stumbled out of the office. She needed to get away from this place, from everyone. Emma ran to the roof of the company and let out a cry. She finally realizes that her moment of weakness has completely destroyed everything she and Jake have built over the years. She regretted it, but didn't know how to undo it. Just then, Emma's cell phone rang. It's a call from the company's HR department. "Mrs. Thompson, I'd like you to come to the personnel department immediately." An icy voice came from the other end of the line. Emma knows that her nightmare is just beginning. When Emma walks into the HR office, she sees the company's HR director and several top executives. Their expressions were serious and cold. The personnel director gets right to the point. "Mrs. Thompson, we have just received some disturbing reports about you. A coworker saw you and David engaging in inappropriate behavior during work hours. Considering the divorce proceedings you have just received and the reputation of the company, we have decided to terminate your employment immediately." Emma felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She opened her mouth to explain, but the words turned into a whimper. The HR director continued, "You may now pack your personal belongings and leave. Your last month's paycheck will be paid to your account within the week." Emma walked out of the company building in a daze, feeling like her whole world was falling apart. She lost her husband, she lost her job, she lost everything. Just then, Emma saw David standing in front of the office waiting for her. She felt a sudden surge of anger come over her. "It's because of you." Emma rushed forward and yelled at David. "If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be like this right now." David tried to calm Emma. "Emma, calm down. We can get through this together. I'll always be there for you." Emma suddenly laughed. It was a bleak and desperate laugh. "By my side. David, you know what? Because of you, I lost everything. My marriage, my job, my dignity, all gone." Just then, a pregnant woman came from a short distance away. She looked 7 or 8 months pregnant and was hobbling. "David," the pregnant woman shouted. "What are you doing here? The doctor said I could go into premature labor at any time. So why are you still hanging around out here?" Emma looked at the scene in front of her in shock, and she felt like her world had completely collapsed. What's going on here?" Emma asked, trembling. David lowered his head, not daring to look Emma in the eye. "I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you the truth. I'm married, and I'm going to be a father soon." Emma felt a wave of vertigo hit her. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had almost destroyed everything she had for this man, and now she realized that it was all based on a lie. The pregnant woman looked at Emma and David in confusion. "David, who is this? What are you guys discussing?" Emma suddenly smiled, a heartbreaking smile. "Who am I? I am a fool, a deceived wretch. Do you know, ma'am? Your husband, the vile liar. He's been courting me, telling me he loves me. And I, a married woman, was foolish enough to believe his lies." The pregnant woman looked at David in shock, pain and anger in her eyes. Emma continued, "But you know what? I lost my husband, my job, everything for him, and now I realize it was all a damn lie." With that, Emma turned and walked away, leaving a dumbfounded David and his wife behind. She felt a wave of relief she had never felt before, as if a huge burden had been lifted. But with it came deeper despair and regret. Emma wandered aimlessly through the streets, unsure of where to go. She took out her cell phone and hesitated for a long time before finally dialing Jake's number. The phone rang for a long time, but there was no answer. Emma smiled bitterly, knowing that she might have lost Jake forever. Just then, Emma received a text message. "It's from Jake. I have arranged for a lawyer to handle the divorce. From now on, please do not contact me again. If there are any problems, please communicate through your lawyer. Goodbye, Emma." Looking at the cold text message, Emma finally broke down. She crouched in the street and let out a sob. Passers-by looked at her curiously, but no one stopped to comfort her. On this sunny afternoon, Emma feels loneliness and despair like never before. She knew that from this day on, her life would change forever. And it was all her doing. The night was low, and Emma sat alone in the living room of her parents' house, her eyes staring vacantly at the television. She couldn't remember what was playing on the TV. Everything that had happened in the past few days had been a nightmare, suffocating her. Emma's father, Robert, gently walked into the living room and looked at his daughter with heartache. He had never seen Emma look so haggard and desperate. "Emma, dear," Robert said softly, "you should go and rest. You've hardly slept these past few days." Emma slowly turned her head and looked at her father with pain and confusion in her eyes. "Dad, what am I going to do? I screwed everything up. And Jake hates me, and I lost my job, and I don't know how to move on with my life." Robert sat down next to Emma and hugged her gently. "Honey, I know you're in a lot of pain right now. But remember, no matter what happens, you still have me and your mom. We'll get through this together." Emma leaned on her father's shoulder, tears welling up again. She felt incredibly grateful that there were still people in the world who would accept her and care for her. Just then, Emma's cell phone rang. It's an unfamiliar number. Emma hesitated, but picked up the phone. "Is this Emma Thompson, please?" A gentle female voice came from the other end of the line. "I'm Jake's coworker, Lisa. I have something I'd like to talk to you about. Can we meet and talk?" Emma froze. She wondered why Jake's co-workers had contacted her. Did Jake put her up to this? Or was there some other reason? Okay, Emma finally said. "Where do we meet?" Lisa gave Emma an address and agreed to meet at noon the next day. After hanging up, Emma felt a glimmer of hope rise in her heart. Perhaps there is still a chance for things to turn around. At noon the next day, Emma arrived at the Promise Cafe. Lisa was already there waiting for her. "Emma, thank you for wanting to see me." Lisa smiled. "I know you probably don't want to talk about Jake right now, but I think there's something you should know." Emma took a deep breath and prepared herself for any possible news. Lisa continued, "Jake's been having a bad time. His whole person has changed. He's become distracted at work and often makes mistakes. A few times, I even saw him hiding in his office alone and crying. Emma, I know something happened between you two, but Jake still loves you. Emma felt a hard tug at her heart. She never thought Jake would be in this much pain. She'd always thought Jake hated her and didn't want to see her again. I don't know what to do. Emma whispered, Jake won't see me, won't talk to me. I want to explain, I want to apologize, but I don't know what to do. Lisa gently took Emma's hand. Emma, give Jake some time. He's hurting right now and needs time to digest it all. But if you really want to save the relationship, don't give up. Show Jake that you still care about him and that you're willing to work on the marriage. Emma nodded. The fire of hope rekindled in her eyes. She decided that she was going to fight for a chance to explain herself and apologize to Jake no matter what. Just then, Emma's cell phone suddenly rang. It's her mother, Sarah. Emma, come back here. Sarah's voice was filled with anxiety. Your father just had a heart attack and has been taken to the hospital. Emma felt a twinge of heaven. She hurriedly said goodbye to Lisa and rushed to the hospital. In the corridors of the hospital, Emma anxiously awaits the results of her father's surgery. Sarah held her daughter's hand tightly, trying to give her strength. Just then, Emma saw a familiar figure appear at the end of the hallway. It's Jake. Jake walked quickly to Emma, his face full of worry. I just heard about Uncle Robert. Is he okay? Emma looked at Jake, tears welling up again. She'd never felt so grateful for Jake's presence. The doctor is still in surgery. We don't know the specifics. Emma choked out. Jake hesitated for a moment, then gently hugged Emma. Don't worry, Uncle Robert will be fine. He's a strong man. Emma leaned into Jake's arms, finally unable to hold back her sobs. All the stress, pain, and regret all exploded in this moment. Jake gently patted Emma on the back, comforting her. He knew that no matter what happened, Emma needed his support at a time like this. A few hours later, the surgery was finally over. The doctor told them that the surgery was successful and that Robert was out of danger. Emma let out a long breath, her tense nerves finally relaxing. But with that comes extreme exhaustion. She felt a wave of vertigo and her body fell backwards uncontrollably. Jake quickly reached out to help Emma. Emma, are you okay? Emma shook her head weakly, then lost consciousness. When Emma wakes up again, she finds herself in a hospital bed. Jake sat on the edge of the bed with worry in his eyes. You were in a coma for 2 days. Jake said softly. The doctor said you had a breakdown due to chronic stress and lack of rest. Emma tried to sit up but felt a wave of dizziness. Jake rushed to hold her up. Jake, I'm so sorry. Emma finally mustered up the courage to say, I know I hurt you in our marriage. I don't ask for your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I really regret it. I never stopped loving you. Jake was silent for a long time, then sighed deeply. Emma, I can't say I've forgiven you. Your betrayal hurt me deeply. But seeing you like this makes me realize that I could never really hate you. We've been through so much together, built our family together. I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were, but maybe we could try to start over. Emma felt a wave of warmth rush through her body. She never thought Jake would give her that chance. Jake, thank you. Emma choked back a sob. I promise I will spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes. I'll earn your trust and love back. Jake gently held Emma's hand. We'll take it one step at a time. For now, you need to rest and take care of yourself. We have a long way to go. From that day on, Jake and Emma began the difficult journey of restoration. They agreed to meet once a week and slowly rebuild their trust in each other. Emma began studying nursing in hopes of healing her own heart as well as caring for others. Jake slowly readmits Emma into his life. Although the road was difficult and full of questions, quarrels, and tears, they did not give up. They know that true love needs to be tested and maintained with time and effort. One day, a year later, Jake and Emma were sitting on the porch of the house they used to live in together, watching the sun slowly set in the west. Jake turned to Emma with a gentle glint in his eyes. Emma, over the past year, I've seen how much you've changed and how hard you've worked. I think maybe it's time to give us a chance to start over. Emma was moved to tears. She knew that this chance for a fresh start had come with a year's worth of hard work and perseverance. She secretly vowed that this time she would cherish it. And with that, Jake and Emma held hands and moved on to a new future together. They know that there may still be twists and turns in the road ahead, but as long as they cherish each other and support each other, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. Their story became a saga of love, forgiveness, and rebirth. Proof that true love not only stands the test of time, but also blossoms back into an even brighter light after its darkest moments. The golden fall sunshine gently poured over Jake and Emma's backyard, adding a bit of warmth to this special day. Today is their 30th wedding anniversary, and the yard is filled with laughter and holiday cheer. Jake stood in front of the grill, expertly flipping the steaks. His hair was gray and the wrinkles on his face told of the years, but those eyes were still shining with wisdom. Every now and then he looked up at Emma, who was not far away, with tenderness in his eyes. Emma was playing with a couple of children, her laughter crisp and pleasant, as if the years had never left their mark on her. She sensed Jake's gaze and turned her head to give him a smile that was just like back then and made Jake's heart flutter again. "Dad, don't want her off. Watch out for burning the meat." Ethan, the oldest son, came over and teased with a smile. Jake looked back and smiled, shaking his head. "Don't worry, your dad. I'm a master of the grill." Ethan patted his father on the shoulder with admiration in his eyes. "Yeah, you're a master at both barbecue and life." Jake looked at his son, and a wave of pride welled up in his heart. Ethan has grown into an excellent cardiac surgeon, inheriting not only his medical skills, but also his respect for life and care for his patients. "Ethan, go get everyone for dinner," Jake said. Soon a large family was sitting around the long table. Jake and Emma sat at one end of the table and looked around with happiness and gratitude in their hearts. Eldest daughter Sarah is whispering to her husband Michael, the two of them smiling at each other from time to time. As a family lawyer, Sarah always says that it was her parents' stories that taught her the true meaning of marriage and made her more empathetic in her work. Daniel, the youngest son, was showing off his latest photo shoot. The beauty of nature through the lens leaves everyone in awe. Emma always said that Daniel inherited her sensitivity to beauty, but was braver than her and dared to follow her dreams. "Okay, everyone quiet down." Jake stood up and raised his glass. "First, I want to thank all of you for being with us on this special day. 30 years ago today, Emma and I made a promise to be together for the rest of our lives. We've had our ups and downs, but our love has never wavered." Emma took over. "Yes, our marriage has not been smooth sailing. We have faced crises and hurt each other. But it is these trials that have made us appreciate each other more and made our love stronger." Jake looked at Emma fondly. "That's right. As I always say, true love is like a tree. It needs time to grow. It needs to be nourished by sunshine and rain, and sometimes it has to go through the test of wind and rain. But as long as we take care of it with all our heart, it will grow stronger and stronger." Grandma and Grandpa, Emily, a 10-year-old granddaughter, asked suddenly, "Do you have any secrets to keep your love alive for so many years?" Jake and Emma smiled at each other, and Emma said gently, "Honey, there is no magic secret to love. The most important thing is to respect, understand, and give to each other. We learn to forgive, we learn to communicate, and we learn to grow." Jake added, "Also, never forget the little things that made you fall in love in the first place. Even after years of marriage, remember to keep some of the romance and surprises." Sarah said thoughtfully, "I remember when I was a kid, you guys used to always take walks together every night and talk about your respective days. I thought it was boring at the time, but now I realize that it was your way of bonding." Emma nodded. "Yes, communication is very important. We make sure we have time every day to really listen to each other and share each other's joys and sorrows. It makes our bond grow stronger." Daniel suddenly said, "What I admire most is your courage. When your marriage was in crisis, you chose to forgive and start over. That must have taken great courage." Jake held Emma's hand tightly and looked at her fondly. "Yes, that takes courage. But what it takes even more is love and trust in each other. We believe that as long as we still love each other, there's nothing we can't overcome." Emma leaned on Jake's shoulder and softly said, "Our story tells us that true love can overcome anything. As long as we love each other and believe in each other, then any difficulty can be overcome. As night fell, Jake and Emma took a walk through the backyard, hand in hand, as they always did. In the moonlight, their figures looked harmonious. "Emma," Jake said softly, "looking back, do you have any thoughts?" Emma stopped and looked at Jake fondly. "I feel incredibly blessed and grateful, Jake. We've been through so much together and created such a wonderful life. I'm so proud of us." Jake gently kissed Emma's forehead. "Me too, darling. Our love has been tested, but it's become even more precious. I'm so glad we chose to forgive each other and start over in the first place." Emma smiled and said, "Yes, our story tells us that love takes courage and dedication, but as long as we don't give up, it will work out beautifully." Jake nodded. "I hope that our story will bring hope and strength to as many people as possible, to make them believe that any relationship has the potential to be reborn if they truly love each other and are willing to change for each other." Emma leaned on Jake's shoulder and whispered, "I'm sure it will, Jake. Our love story will continue to be celebrated and give hope and strength to all who are experiencing difficulties." Jake wrapped his arms around Emma, and the two continued to stroll through the moonlight. They know that their love story continues, and that it will forever inspire their children and grandchildren, as well as all those who believe in love. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.